Hello once again, Monster Hobbies Model Car Garage Mechanics. Are you ready for another great video? I can't hear you. All right, what a great response. So today we're gonna be continuing on and finishing our Jumping Jeans video. This is the Lindberg car, the Thrill Threads, and this is for the small scale group build hosted by Dan the Man at the 60s Rule channel, as well as the Scale Model Car Guy. So that's another great little group build that we're doing. So without further ado, let's go down to the bench and finish our model. Now that we've completed our engine and chassis, we can go back to step number 1, which is the interior, exterior, and the roof. Now, I have read over how to put this together, and I think I'm going to change it just a little bit in the video because there is an issue with the hole in the floor and slipping it over the gear stick lever from step 2. So I'm going to try to make that a bit simpler in this, as well as there is an issue with the body and the frame rails, which we're going to address. Now, when I originally built this model way back in the 80s, I used the body, the floor, and these wide fenders, added in the rear seat into the back, just like this. Then the front seat, of course, up front. Then I had the steering wheel, but the steering column broke. Put on the cowl, of course, and then I have this windshield here. Now, for the restoration, I've also built up the top in its 2 pieces. And I have this tonneau cover, and you'll notice the holes in there. That is for this roll bar. And I also want to add on the front fenders. Now I only have one from the original kit, but with the other kit I've got 2, so I'm going to pirate those from the other one because I'm not going to use the big wide rear fenders on the other car. And I also have this cut down windshield, and I noticed with the new kit that it only has the cut down windshield, so I don't know where this one went. And in the instructions there's also one that has rounded edges at the top, which is also not in the more untouched kit, I guess. It's not really new kit. Oh, and one other thing. I'm going to add on those tail lights that I'd never put on because I didn't realize what they were back in the day. So I've got to find a spot on the body for that. So what I'm thinking for the restoration is to remove the back seat, not use the top, and to use the tonneau cover, which just pops on. And then I'm going to clean up the roll bar and put that in because you need some safety. And I'm going to figure out which windshield to use because I could use the glass from the new kit, but I've got to see which one, right? So that's basically going to be how the body on this is going to look for the restoration car. In order to build the body and complete the car, we have to first find all the pieces that we need. So right here we've got the steering wheel, we've got the front and rear seat, we have the body. We're not going to be using these fenders on this build because the box doesn't have it. We have the back of the top of the top. We also have a tonneau cover here. And then we've got our 34 Ford radiator. We've got our windshield, the cut down one. We also have glass. Now one is for a windshield that we don't have, which is curved at the top. I don't know where that is. We also have the chopped windshield glass. We have the full windshield glass, and at the very back here, we've got the little rectangle that goes into the rear window on the top. Right here are some tail lights, which you can't see because this is upside down. And then we've got the floor for the car and the cowl and the body itself. So the pieces that I need are the floor bottom, the cowl, the body itself, the 2-piece top, the 34 grille, the chopped windshield, and then tail lights, and the piece of glass that goes into the windshield as well as the rear window. Now the difficult task is going to be cutting this body out of the little frame it's in because it has 4 attachment points. One here up on the side of the body, one toward the back, and then of course on the opposite side. And the issue with this is going to be how we cut these off in order to keep a bit of it so that we can file it down instead of trying to twist this off or whatever and getting a little crater right where the parts tree is attaching to the side of the body. And another thing that I've noticed with a kit I built previously is that it's pretty tight right here on the inside of the body where it's been channeled over the frame, as you can see here. It's tight on the frame, so I'm going to need my file in order to file this down a little bit and make it thinner, just for ease of convenience. And another part that they say in the instructions is to take the cowl and glue it on. We're not going to do that until we take the body and snake it through the gear shift lever and secure the body down to the frame. And then we can glue the cowl on. So I'm going to have to paint the cowl separately and paint the body separately, clean it all up, put the body on first with the floor in the back, and our frame rails thin down, and make sure I can snake it through the transmission, or the gear stick lever on the transmission, and then put the cowl over the top as a covering. Because otherwise it's very difficult to line up that gear stick and have it through when you can't see where it is with the cowl glued in place. So that is how we're going to have to do it. The seats are going to be cool because I'll try that denim pattern and we'll see how that looks. So just be careful cutting this out, and I'll show you what it looks like when I get it cut out so you got an idea. Now here I've freed the body from the parts tree frame, and you can see that our door handle is right here and the actual stub is sticking up here. And I've left enough of the stub out, as you can see, so that we can take our file and carefully file it down flat to meet the body. So we have to be careful not to file off the door handle. So just put my thumb on top of it, and then I can file it. Now the way I want to be looking is down here like this, so I know when to stop the file before I start filing the body, because I don't really want to do that. But again, you can see just how much meat I left out there, plastic meat, sticking out, so that we have something to work with and file down too, in order to keep this all nice and flat. Now on this side it's really good because we're well away from the door handles, so we won't have to worry about knocking them off. And another way to protect them is just get a piece of masking tape and cover over the detail you don't want removed, so that when you're filing it, if it does hit this area, it's only hitting the tape. So wish me luck on cleaning this up, because there is a lot of flash, and I'm going to have to take my file and go inside here quite a bit and just thin this area down in order for the frame to fit better on those sides. Here we have the bottom of the floor pan, and right here and here are two huge mold marks with a number right in the center of them. You can see it's pretty tall in there. So I've got this really rough file, and I'm just going to file these down. And I'll keep going down till they're gone. And I can also do that with my sandpaper block as well. Just cross sanding and sanding as best I can in order to get that perfectly flat. Here we have the reconstruction, and you can see that I have the body with the floor that was previously glued in, as well as the firewall and cowl here. Now the steering wheel is broken off, so what I did is I just drilled it out again, like so, like I did with the frame. And I drilled the back of the steering wheel and I put in a metal wire in there, so I'll have something to hold on to with the steering wheel when I paint it. And then once it gets dry, I can slip the pin into the hole, and then I can have my steering wheel back in shape. Here's the windshield, and I had to sand it down a bit because there were some sink marks into the thing. So now it's nice and flat. Then I've got the front seat only, the roll bar, and the tonneau cover. And I also put on these taillights on the bottom of the fenders. The taillights, they're curving outward, as you can see here. It's the lens itself. I think it's sort of a Studebaker 51, and that end is taller than the other end. So I was trying to figure out how to put them, because on the Studebaker, of course, they're vertical, not horizontal. But I think it's going to be okay, because I've got them facing, you know, outward like that and outward like that, instead of, you know, both sloping inward. So if you're going to use those tail lamps, just be careful of their orientation. I'm not too sure how they would go on the other car, like if you didn't have fenders, if they would be straight up and down over here and here, because if you want to use the sticker, it is quite wide across the back. So I don't know if you wanted to notch it around those tail lamps or leave it as is. And one other thing that I noticed here is on the roll bar, if you put it in the holes, it doesn't go through the holes. It actually just seats down just a little tiny bit in there. So the roll bar will be pretty tall up in here. So let's just put this together. Now, of course, the front fenders are going to be mounted onto the front axle. So they're just kind of sitting here for now. Is that it? That's it. Now you note the steering wheel is crooked, but that's okay, because if I turn it around, it will eventually correct itself. It's because the two holes don't quite line up, you know, the one I drilled and the other one. You can see the gauges through the steering wheel spokes, which is nice. Still a bit off. Yeah, anyway, I can spin it around. I can also bend it a bit before I glue it in. And I think I'll do crazy glue in there just because you're going metal to plastic. The seat, we'll have to figure out its location, but it's easy enough because the tonneau cover pops into place along the back here. Here. Clicks nicely into place. Then we can slide the seat back and it'll glue up along the edge of the tonneau cover. Then our roll bar drop in here like this. And I think one thing I'm going to do before I paint these, so I'll glue the roll bar into place with the tonneau cover just sitting there. And I'll also glue the windshield in. Now, the windshield does have a bit of a slope on one side in here. So it's sort of curving out like this along that edge. So you really want that curve to go and face the steering wheel because of the curve of the cowl. Now, there we go. Seats up nice. So what I think I'll do here is I'm going to glue on the roll bar into those holes. Just leave this top sitting in place. I won't glue the top on yet. And I will also glue the windshield in because I had burn marks in here from it being glued on years and years and years ago. So if I glue this on now before I paint it, it would cover up the holes in the burn marks. And then with the tonneau cover, once this is glued on, the roll bar, I can pop it off and I can use the roll bar as a makeshift handle while I'm painting the tonneau cover. And then after the tonneau cover is dry, I can paint the roll bar, maybe with the chrome pen or something like that, in order for it to stand out. And that would make it really nice to work with this glued in as a handle. Here's our parts for our fresh model kit, all laid out nicely. So we have the slope back 34 Ford grille, the firewall and the dashboard, as well as the top of the cowl. We also have the chopped windshield, and then of course our body. Over here we have the floor that goes into there. Got the rear seat, the front seat, the steering wheel, and our top. Now I glued the back onto the top and cleaned it up along the edges here with the sandpaper. And I also used my knife and sandpaper just to smooth this out from all the mold marks and numbers and everything else that were on there. So top's looking pretty good. The cowl has our firewall on this side, or sorry, our dashboard on this side. The firewall is right here. And we do have our gauges, and I had to use a little putty right there because it had broken off the parts tree and left a hole. One thing that I could do on the firewall is use bare metal foil because I used to chrome these flat firewalls, but I don't think I'm going to do that because I had an issue where I did something like that and it just peeled on the edges. The front seat It also had a couple of sink marks in here that I had to use some putty in just because they were kind of low and it's circular. Now I do have an idea here that I didn't do on my old kit back in the day, but I'm thinking of putting the floor in and then gluing the back seat to the base of the floor and then having the back seat come out with the floor as a piece, and then I can paint the inside right around here as well as the seat on the floor, and then paint the floor with some flat black. Oops. And then that way I can glue the floor in after I paint the sides with the seat in the proper place so that it all lines up perfectly, and so that the front of the floorboard touches the back of this part of the floorboard, and then everything will be all nice. Here's our car body after I painted it with some trim-clad gloss dark green, and it looks pretty much like the color on the box art. What I did was taped off in here just to protect the plastic from the green spray, because I'm going to be painting the floor a different color and gluing some seats onto it and whatnot, and I didn't want to have that with the gloss green and then have to paint over top of it or remove it somehow. So that's why I masked it in there. The green paint did have some little issues along the sides. I think if I had some more time to do a second coat on here, sand it down, and let it dry, that it would come out a bit smoother. But for now, I really don't have much time, just because I want to get this done for the video. So it will be a little bit rough, but I think it would be nice, especially with the stickers over top. It might hide some of that. Here I have the grill and the cowl, and these turned out pretty good with the trim-clad green. Don't see too much of an issue with them. In fact, this is what I was hoping the body would be more like. The only kind of issue I had is this is a piece of tape, and when I had the cowl on it, it was more, at a right angle. But as I was painting it, I think it softened the tape just a little bit, and the cowl tipped down so that the dashboard is touching the cardboard here. And hopefully that didn't put a run in under with the paint or something weird that I'm going to have to deal with. So wish me luck on that. What I'll have to do is turn the cowl over and the grill over and paint flat black in behind there. But I do believe that with these parts and the body, once everything dries, that it will look like that green that's on the side of the box. Here I have the wheels also painted in the same dark green. These will look pretty good once they're on the car, because these hubcaps will be chromed, and the little holes in there, I'm going to try to paint some black paint in there. Should end up pretty much looking like the box art wheels. Oh, there we go. But yeah, so that's what they'd end up like. So what I'll do is I'll let this green paint dry for a day or two, and in the meantime I'm going to brush paint the reproduction car with some metallics. So I'll show you the steps I use in order to do that. I want to paint our reconstructed car in a really cool looking dark Arctic blue. And before I do that, what I want to do is paint an undercoat of gold on here. Once the gold is dry, paint over it with Tamiya clear acrylic paint, and then I will paint on the Arctic blue after that. Now the reason why I'm going through these steps is because metallic paints are opaque, which means that light can shine through them and you can see what's underneath. Not quite transparent, but sort of in between, of course. So what would happen there is if I just painted this right over the top as it is now, where it is yellow you would see light patches, and where there is like the dark blue in here from the paint that was on here before that I tried to strip, you'll see it darker in the corners and where the cracks are. So first off, the base coat of gold will cover over all these imperfections. Then, because these are both enamels, if the gold isn't fully dry, the enamel here will start to lift it up and move the metal flakes around. However, I found that if I use the acrylic as a blocker in between. Because the acrylic paint has different properties and it's not affected by the enamel, this should be able to go right over top of that. And the clear will act as a barrier between the two enamels so that one doesn't lift up and soften the other. A friend of mine also suggested that instead of using my regular paintbrush, try using the MAC brushes, because these are pinstriper brushes and they've got the fine squirrel hair and they're very long. So in that way, I won't be disturbing the metallics as much as if I used maybe a harder paintbrush. So I'll give it a try, and then you can see what it looks like. Just as an experiment, I thought I would paint the Arctic blue over the bare plastic from the grill from the original model, and it looks good, but it still is pretty much opaque. You can sort of see that it is bright over here, and of course wherever it's going to be dark, that's where you're going to see it going dark. So that was just an experiment, but I think I will go for the gold underneath for sure. Here's our body after I painted on the gold base coat, and I'm not really sure if that brush was really, did any wonders here or made anything better. It still looks a little bit streaky, but it is nice that this is all in one uniform color right now, instead of all the funny colors that this used to be. Across the back, it looks pretty decent. Getting a lot of reflection off there. Now, I didn't paint the interior. It's still, what it used to be. And another reason why I'm using the tonneau cover is because if I had the back seat in here, you'd see all the cracks in the body. Here, let me just get this up. You'd see all the cracks in the body toward the back here. And there are some like big gouges from when I took this apart originally. Everything broke. There is a crack in the rear fender which comes down here, which you can see through the paint. I thought I had it smooth enough, but maybe with the darker color you won't see it as badly. So with the tonneau cover, it covers basically all this area right in here, from that crack in the floor back. So I'll try to paint inside here under the dash and all that with maybe a gloss black or some dark flat blue or something like that, just to hide it. And yeah, once the front seat is in there isn't really much room. So, and with the steering wheel, so you can't really see what's going on too deeply into the car. So all that will be nicely hidden. But overall, let me know what you think of the gold. Do you think it's good? I mean, it's good enough for a base coat. So that should be good. It's also unfortunate that these holes are all plugged up in here. And even if they weren't plugged up, you won't see them because the tire's in the way. But I think I'm doing okay. While we're waiting for the paint on the body to dry, now is a perfect opportunity to use our acrylic colors and try to match this denim pattern that's on our sticker sheet for the model. So we need to find some kind of blue that we can use in order to paint the roof, the front seat, and the back seat. So I'm going to use some Citadel Games Workshop paint because they use a layer kind of effect in order to create colors for the models. So that's what I'll do for this. Here I have a sheet from Games Workshop from many years ago, and this is the Citadel paint system. So I found that the best kind of blue for this is this little bit here. We have Calidor Sky as a base color, Drakenhof Nightshade as a shade color, Teclis Blue as layer number 1, and Lothern Blue as layer number 2. Now to add further highlights, I could use Ethereum Blue and Gulliman Blue, which is a sort of a kind of a wash that ties the two together, or ties everything together and makes everything look universal. Now if I use this is what you end up getting. If I can hold them still. There's one of my Astra Militarums, and you can see that his blue, which is supposed to be sort of like a French uniform from World War I, it looks like denim, doesn't it? So comparing him to our sticker sheet, now the sticker sheet is a bit lighter, of course, because the Games Workshop doesn't quite make blues that match this denim, but it's not a bad effect. And I think if I put this in, it will just look like a different type of denim patched in, like it's supposed to go up on the roof. So now imagine our roof being like that, and then it should all work out. For all the fabrics on the restoration, we are going to be using Calidor Sky Blue as a base, Drakenhof Nightshade as the shade, Teclis Blue for layer number 1, and Lorthen Blue for layer number 2. And it should come pretty close to our denim texture. And these are all Citadel Games Workshop paints, and I will be using their layering system. So first you do your base coat, and then you give this whole thing a wash with the shade. Then it's a dry brush of Teclis Blue and a dry brush of Lorthen Blue on the top. And basically what you're doing is you're going from a dark color, then you're darkening it even more, and then with the first layer you're bringing that color up again, and then with this one it's for the highlights. So it would go up across the top of the seats here, and this part of the seat that's going to be in the sun. This whole back would be, you know, dry brush with the Lorthen Blue, but the sides would be up to the Teclis Blue. Here's the front seat, rear seat, and the roof after finishing the denim colors with our Citadel paints. And what do you think? Does it look like actual blue jeans? Did I capture the look correctly? You can see these roof bars across here where they were the high points, and we've also got the highlights on the top of the seats, but not down the front where the sun wouldn't catch them. So again, let me know. Now one thing, the back seat is hollow, and this would be perfect to use some of this styrene sheet and glue it across to cover the back of the seat. But I think I'm going to leave it open just because there is no actual, cover in this kit. And if I really wanted to cover this, I should have actually glued this to the seat and then cut it to shape with the back and then painted it. But I decided not to do that. And then I'm going to have to paint up underneath the roof here as well, just in order to, not make it look like plastic. So I could either use something like white in here or just carry on with the blue denim. Now here is the denim decal, and it will be interesting to see just how this looks. But I'm having a little trouble getting it off the backing paper. Oh, here we go. Now after 50 years, let's see how this looks. I suppose I shouldn't be touching this directly with my fingers. Actually, what I should do is come from the front. See how big this... Oh, okay. It'll go right to the back, to the front. So I'm going to lose some of my detail on those cross braces for the roof. Let's see, I think right about here. Oh, no, it is a bit short. Oh, sorry, I got out of focus. Okay. Let's just see. So it's got to come in just a little off the edge. So right about there. Oops. Right about. I have a little trouble centering this thing. So what I'll do is I'll put it on off camera here so I can get closer to it. And there it is with the sticker on. Boy, doesn't that look neat, eh? Like a denim patch just sewn right onto more denim. So let's carry on with this model and get that interior done and see just how wonderful it looks. Here we have the front seat and the tonneau cover for our restoration rod. Now the only thing I will say is that this back is open on the seat, and it would be nice if we actually had a little piece of styrene card and just stuck it in there and glued it on, and then filed the card to shape just to have a actual seat back. But the thing with this kit is this seat is going to be glued up against the tonneau cover, so it doesn't really need the seat back, because it would be like that, and no one can see under the cover, especially when I glue it down. But you can see the wonderful fabric, the texture in here. It's actually got a little bit there, and then it's got the stretch marks coming in off the holes of the roll bar. My question is, though, how would they do this cover and have the roll bar in there? You know, because wouldn't this have to be going around the roll bar? But at any rate, it ends up looking cool. I should put on the little brass buttons along the side here when I get a chance. And up underneath, it's bare plastic. But like I say, once I glue this to the body, you won't even see it. Might just come around that edge, though, with the blue. Because when you turn the car upside down, you will see that. But overall, I think it's looking pretty good. Here's our gold body after applying a little coat of Tamiya Clear, and this will act as a good block between that gold underneath and the Arctic blue. So that'll sure be cool to paint with the blue later on, so tune in for that. Here we have the first coat of Arctic blue on our model, and that is painted right over the gold color. And you can see that it is very translucent in here, like right around this area. You can see the gold clearly through the blue, but that is because metallics are opaque, so this is the way it's supposed to be looking on the first coat. You can see it there on the fenders as well. It's not looking the best, but I've read about people putting 40 coats of paint on there with metallics and whatnot, but I think I'm going to try 3 coats and see where it leads to. So for the fenders, it's sort of the same thing. The first coat, it is very thin. Here's the fenders after the second coat of the Arctic blue, and now you can see that the blue is actually looking like what it should look like right out of the bottle. So maybe 2 coats is enough for this. Sure does look cool. I love this metallic. And I wonder how it's going to look once I put on the stickers up on the body of the car. Here's the car after a second coat of the metallic Arctic blue, and I used the 4-inch MAC brush. And I think I might have made a mistake on that, because here I think I obliterated and filled in all the door panel lines with the paint. So yeah, that wasn't quite the best idea. I should have just stuck with my usual paintbrush, but I wanted to give my friend a benefit of the doubt there and just try it with the MAC brush, and in this case I don't think it worked. So what I might do is actually let this dry for maybe a week and then just try to wet sand it, you know, a little bit with some very fine sandpaper, and then thin down the final coat of the metallic paint and give it a try. Or I could just simply peel the stickers off once this dries and bury some of the nasty away with the stickers. But I don't know. What do you think of that? Do you think this is... let's just try a little wrap and roll. You think that sticker would look pretty good on there? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Here we have the painted fenders on the chassis. You can see that cool looking Arctic blue on here. Looks really good. So there we go. Now what I like about this metal flake is that it's really tiny, just like it would be in scale. Now I did this with a brush, and I used 2 coats right out of the bottle, and then for the final coat I added a bit of thinner into it, 10 drops, and then made it flow a lot nicer so it would settle down. And in between the coats I actually sanded it because I found I was picking up some little dust particles and whatnot. So afterwards I strained the paint. I also painted the little holes into the rim here just to make it look a lot better. Overall though, it looks pretty good so far. So now let's take a look at the body. Here we have the body, and I do believe I made a bit of a mistake because when I was painting it, I used my big paintbrush, and that would be, of course, the number 4 pinstriping brush, and I believe it was a little bit too wide, and I did have trouble controlling it. So I sanded it down, and for that final thin coat, I painted over the top, but I do believe there is some stuff underneath here from before. Sometimes it's hard to really get this perfect, but I do like it. I think it's pretty smooth for what I was able to do without using an airbrush. Underneath, I painted flat black in here, and that's when the frame gets in. This will look a little bit different so that the semi-gloss black frame will show up. And I was a bit afraid that I lost the door detail, but it does seem to still, be in there. So the other part that I'll have to do is paint the tail lights with the chrome Molotow pen and then go over the lenses with the red. I also have to paint that dashboard in there. And part of the interior, because I'm using the tonneau cover, so it covers everything from that door line back, so I won't need to paint there. And then the seat acts like a wall as well. So here's a little overhead mock-up. Just carefully put this on the frame. I still have to let the paint fully cure on the body, so that'll be a day or so. But just to give you an idea of how this all looks in that metallic blue, I think it looks pretty good. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. So, sort of a bad thing about this reconstruction that I'm doing, I went and I put the body on, and the frame cracked right there. So I went to push it just a little bit to get this straight to, lock in with the broken bit, and the other side snapped and the whole front end went flying off into a box where the one wheel snapped right off the axle, and I lost my air cleaners somewhere. And I'm pretty upset with this, but at any rate I did get the frame down, and you can see just how tight it is onto those fenders. And there it is. I'm not too sure what to do here now, although every fiber of my body says to smash this thing with a hammer and throw it away, because that plastic is so brittle. It's driving me crazy. But at any rate, I will try to continue. I'll try to paint inside here and apply my stickers onto it. And I'm going to try to see if I can find the other air cleaners from a newer kit and just put them on there. And I have to do some touch-up because when it flew into, the front end flew into another model kit box, and I don't know where these shot off to. And it chipped the paint. A nice paint job, so just have to see if I can get this together. Here's our model after gluing on the hubcaps, which are green, and applying a bit of the chrome paint on there. And we also have the holes that I painted black in the wheels, so looking much like the one on the cover. Here we have the firewall, cowl, and dashboard assembly, and I was right, this thing did fall back and lay on the cardboard, so when I removed it, it took the paint off just along that bottom edge, and of course you can see the yellow plastic underneath, but I could easily just paint that. I've got a tester's paint color that is like this green, so now I can apply my paint onto the instrument panels and a little bit of flat black up underneath, so when I turn the car over I don't see this. Next off, I want to remove the masking tape in here and then start painting the interior, as well as glue down the floor pan. Here's the interior with the masking tape removed, and you can see that a bit of paint got underneath the tape. I also got a bit of a chip right here, and this was not covered, so that's okay. You can see just how clean the plastic is from the masking. Pretty neat. So what I'm thinking of doing is using the floorboard here. Remember I glued the seat in. You can see how neat that looks. I was also thinking of maybe gluing the front seat just at the back to this floor panel, and then both of these should be able to lift out. Then I can put them back in. And then the other thing I'm going to do is remove the gear shift lever from the back of the transmission and figure out where to glue it on the floor, because this hole, when you have the stick going through the hole, it gets covered by the cowl when you drop it in place. So here's our cowl going in place. And yeah, it would cover it. So I'm going to do what Dan the man did and figure out the location for the shift lever so it comes up onto the seat a little bit. Here's the grill after taking it off of the tape, and you can see that it's quite clean in here from a plastic standpoint, so that would be painted flat black. But one thing that I've noticed with these cars, some of the 34 Fords had this all chrome. So the housing would be chromed. And then others, I've noticed that people are either painting these or they were painted, and then the grille itself is chrome. So I think I'm going to go for the grille itself being chrome on this one, and that should look pretty interesting, I think. So again, this would go right on the frame, right in the front. It should look pretty neat, this whole sloping, streamlined shovel kind of look. Almost like a cow catcher on the front of a train. I don't know. But at any rate, it should be neat. Here's the interior with the front seat glued in. Now, I'll just show you what I did here. So I popped this out. So what I did is I lined up the seat with the doors, because there's a little bit of a gap in between here, as you can see, right where my finger is. There's also a big sink mark that runs across here, but I'm just going to ignore that. Anyway, so I took my seat and I glued it just on the back here with a little bit of the Tester's red glue on a stick. And really, you can see how much of this seat overhangs onto the floorboard here. So with this being loose like it is, I can now put my floor in here, and I can take my hobby knife and etch. Just hang on a minute. Okay, I can take my hobby knife here, and this is number 16 hobby blade. Has many good uses. So turning it upside down, I can just go across the front of the seat here and slightly etch in on the floor, and then pop this out and paint my floorboards up to where I etched it, and then in behind the seat here as well, paint that with the darker blue for the carpet. And then that way I know that behind this is where that seat is going to glue to. So then I can add my glue in here and then push this down. Of course, add a bit of glue onto the side because there is a little channel, a little ledge down there where the floor is going to sit. So I can easily just put this into place, and then this will be painted. Underneath will be the untouched plastic. So then I can glue the front of the seat on for the plastic to plastic contact, and then turn the whole thing over and paint all this flat black up underneath, or maybe even the green color, some floorboard color I'll figure out. And then that is all set in. Then I just have to glue that gear stick lever right into here somewhere, and then glue the cowl on. So here we have our body with the interior assembled, as well as our stick that's been moved from that great big hole back a bit into the actual seat area, and I think that looks pretty much like how it should. Now, I did paint a little bit of the chrome into the door handles up in here on the inside, but not yet the outside, because I'm going to have to handle this a little bit in order to get it on the frame. Underneath, got some flat black painted in there, looking pretty good. Painted those sides green, but I might have to scrape a bit of paint out of the way. And then here we've got our frame and the body. I'm going to hook it at the back. Actually, what I really should do... No, I was thinking slide this forward, but it's not going to work. It's just going to be a bit too wide there. But at any rate, so what I'll do is I'll use the little holes here, or the half circles, slip them on the axle there, and then push the body down. Now Dan over at the 60s Rules channel is also building one of these, and he does say to try to pinch the frame rails in a little bit. But I'll see if I can get it in, and should look good. Overall, I think this will look pretty much like the one on the box. I'm moving the car out of the way. I just have to paint the details on the instrument faces. But basically, there's the cowl with the flat black painted underneath, and the green everywhere. And then for the radiator, still green. I'll glue this on the body and then paint the chrome inside here. But there's the blackout on this side. And then I'll have to paint a bit of Tester's green around here. Now it's amazing that the green matches exactly. See if you can tell which is Tester's and which isn't. I can't. It's just such a good color match, even though they're two different brands. Tremclad in the spray can and Tester's just on its own. And then I've got the steering wheel here. And I painted it flat black because on the box art it's supposed to be semi-gloss black, but I don't really have that color. So I'm just going to leave it all black this time, not paint the chrome inside or anything. Just keep it sort of as the box art. Here I've got the body mounted on the frame rails, and I think I'm not going to bother gluing it, because I do believe why it's so tight in here is so that it actually snaps into place. Although it's not really snapping as far as going snap, you know, but there is a lot of tension on here and in the back. So I'm thinking it doesn't really need glue. Now there are some little raised things right here, little tabs I guess you call them, and the body goes behind the tabs, but other than that I think it's very solid on here, so I will just leave that portion unglued. But of course I am going to have to glue the radiator in place because that will just fall off, so got to get it right, as well as the dashboard. And what I'll do is just sort of size up where this is and scrape the, because right here it's there's no paint right there and there, and I'll do the same on the top of the body and then glue this down. But first I got to put that steering wheel in there, otherwise I'm going to lose my opportunity to do that, and paint those gauges of course. Here I've got my instruments painted up, and you can see the speedometer as well as a bunch of the other gauges. Got little oil pressure and that sort of thing, trying to paint those as best I can. Little black numbers are just dots, and then I've got red needles. Now I've also scraped in between the two holes, and that is so that the windshield frame will glue down somewhere in there, and then I can paint the windshield frame with the Multol chrome pen. Here we have our 1934 Ford Thrill Threads car. You can see just how cool it looks with that denim pocket on the side door. Really neat stuff. The denim in the back for the seats, and then we've got the patch across the back. Another little pocket in the rear quarters. There we've got our little hubcaps all painted with the chrome right there. Really cool stuff. Chevy engine orange for our little motor, our 327. You can see the wonderful chrome grille in there as well. Really enjoyed building this model. A lot of fun, and you can have just as much fun with it too. Now let me just bring this around and I'll put the top on it. Here's our car with the top up, and I added on the denim patch onto the roof as well. Again, really cool looking. A lot of fun to paint that with the Warhammer paint and get it all looking right. There you got it in from the back. The little wheels are quite interesting. They just sort of stick out of nowhere right there, as you can see as it comes around. It's really quite an interesting thing without any fenders. Would be cool to also see this with fenders if there was such a thing in this scale. But overall, again, I had a lot of fun doing it, and I think it looks pretty fantastic. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Here we have the car from underneath. You can see just how nice a flat black looks in contrast to the semi-gloss black. I also have the engine here, and you can see the holes I drilled out of the pipes, and the oil filter and the starter motor. So again, really cool looking stuff. Really looks nice from underneath as well as from the top. And now I have another surprise for you. Check this out. So I decided to really work on this car and not let it get me, even though the front cracked off. But basically you can see how it looks now. There's the denim door patch and the denim cover, and I've got the interior painted in a nice blue. Got that great metallic on there, the yellow engine. I was able to get some more carburetors up top from the other kit. Now, just taking this back, unfortunately you can see how the wheels are all wrecked on here. Yeah, not much I can do about that, unfortunately. Just sad that it broke. But at any rate, it's still looking decent. Those fenders are really tight on there, up to the wheel. You can see my red taillights back here, and the patch across the back. So despite it breaking, I think it turned out not bad. Building the fresh version of the kit will be a lot better, I hope, because the plastic is not so rigid and brittle. Unfortunately, I don't really want to show you guys the frame because that, after I got it all perfect, it's really got a big jog and everything in it now under there. What can you do? Thought I'd just film the spin around here just a little bit closer up. I'm not really geared for 1/32 scale, I'm afraid. My camera setup is more for 1/24th, but you can see how it turned out nice. Gotta love that metallic blue on there, sparkling away. The big yellow Chevy 365, that's all been bored up to about 300 cubic inch or something like that. Overall, I mean, I do like how it turned out, except for its faults. Here we have a shot of the dashboard, and you can see the gauges through the spokes of the steering wheel. Now, it didn't turn out too badly, but unfortunately this old 70s kit has really dried up and the plastic is quite brittle. But overall, I think I did pretty good for what I could. And here we have underneath the car, you can see the flat black floorboards and then the gloss black differential and yellow engine. Now, unfortunately, when I did put it in, I did crack the frame, so may seem to be a little bit twisted toward the front. But I mean, what can I do for a model kit that's so brittle? Here we have the two cars side by side, getting ready for a big drag race. I don't know. But you can see clearly the differences between the two, even though this is the same kit. Big fenders, knockoffs, chrome wheels on this side, tonneau cover and roll bar. And now we get into your standard style hot rod tub. And we've got the roof that's up and the green paint and those cool stock vintage hubcaps. We also have the Chevy motor there, as well as the sloped grille. Again, really cool stuff. So I really hope you enjoyed this build and restoration of this kit, and I look forward to you checking out my other videos on this great YouTube channel. Well, I hope you enjoyed our completion of our Thrill Threads car, and stay tuned next week because I'm going to be starting up the second car in the small scale group build, and that is the one I really like, the Slick Slacks. This is a really cool 27 Ford Model T with the engine in the back. Another great Lindberg kit. So what I want to say is, don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you are already subscribed and you enjoy this channel, consider becoming a member. You got to click that join button that's down there, and it'll lead you to it. Members get special videos made for them, which I'm starting to do, such as the Mystery Parts Challenge, which is a really cool thing. I pick out a model car I want to build, and then I go through my extra parts off the side, and you as members get to choose which parts that I'm going to show you that you would like to see added to that model. And I have a special little small scale build thing I want to do. I was going through some of my collection here, actually over there, which you can't see, and my 32 scale cars. I started to build some of the ones that I unboxed way back when I first started my original channel. I put those videos here as well. And one of them is this tea bucket, also from Lindberg, but I believe this is an old pyro kit. I've got this thing about 75% finished, and I'm going to finish off the other 25% just for members. So if you want to see this car getting completed, become a member and you'll be able to do that. So until next time, everybody, good luck on your small scale group build, happy modeling, and we'll see you in the next video.